Hello, everybody. Today we're here with a very special guest. She is Soraya, and we are going to have a conversation today about British and American words. But first, I'd like Soraya, could you please introduce yourself for us?
Well, thank you for inviting me for this video. My name is Soraya, and I've been teaching English for more than 15 years. Just like you, I help students prepare for IELTS. And well, I hope everyone enjoys this video.
They surely will. So, guys, let me just quickly tell you something about her. She is the specialist when it comes to writing. So, if you are struggling with that, you should definitely go look
Oh,
for
come
her
on.
profile because she is the writing queen. You should see her. I kid you not. Just go there.
Oh, I
All
thank
right.
you for that. You're very kind.
All right. What we are going to do here today is we are going to analyze and discuss just a bit about some British and American words that have different kinds of approach to the same thing. The last video we did together, we are talking just about words that have different pronunciation, the same spelling, but different pronunciation. But now we are going to see some different words for the same thing. So without further ado, let's get started. And the first word I've got is trainers. So trainers would be the British word. Soraya, please tell us what would be the American way.
Sneakers. So it's completely different. I remember that I was in London in 2009 and I went to a shoe shop here in Canada in the US. It's a shoe store. And I really liked a pair of sneakers that I had seen. And I asked the salesperson, I would like to see those sneakers. And he looked at me and he was like, sneakers.
What?
And then I remembered, oh, sorry, those trainers, because they had other kinds of shoes like sandals, flip-flops. And then I was like, oh my God, I have to remember that I am in England, not in the US.
And just out of curiosity, do people also call sneakers in Canada, or some people say trainers?
No, they don't say trainers here, but they also don't say sneakers. If you say sneakers, they won't understand. But they usually say tennis shoes or running shoes. Here, so here in
Oh,
Canada, it's also different.
good to know. So I say good to know because, as some of you know, I'm also going to Canada. I'm going to move to Canada soon, very soon. Let's go see the next word. Still talking about clothing, the next word is a jumper. What American people would call a jumper?
A sweater. A sweater.
A sweater.
It's also
Sweater.
completely different.
Yes,
Jumper, yeah, I learned this word when I started teaching at Cultura Inglesa a long time ago. It was the first time I saw it. Jumper is like, I mean, I don't know why a sweater is called jumper.
I have no clue too, but even the pronunciation is so different because if I was to say sweater, I would pronounce the T like that, a sweater. But
Sweater. Yeah, I say
sweater is
sweater.
more, yeah,
Sweater.
that's true. And again, do people in Canada call this sweater?
Yes, also sweater.
Good to know. The next one is a very nice one because this caused a lot of confusion in people's minds. So this word in British English we say chips.
All
What
right.
are chips for American and Canadian people?
Yeah, here they call it French fries or simply fries, but chips here is something different. Potato chips here are crisps
Yes, it's all we would
in
call
British
crisp,
English, right?
right?
It's like, how can we say that? They are like the thin cut,
Sliced and thin
yeah, the thin
potato
slices of
pieces, right?
potatoes, let's say,
Yes,
like ruffles.
yes. So that what we call chips, you would call French fries, and what we call crisps, you would call my
Chips,
chips. So that's the thing.
exactly. So that's confusing. That's
That
really,
is quite confusing indeed.
yeah.
The next word we've got, I like this word. I like that this
Me
word
too.
very
I
much.
like the British version. I really like
I
it.
like it too. And this word is tube. The tube. What do we call the tube?
All right, some people have no idea, but the tube here in Canada and in the US is the subway.
Yes, that's so different. And this one, I think we've got a clue of it because if you have seen the entry of the British subway, it's a huge, enormous tube. So that's what they call. I'm going to,
Exactly. Yeah.
right?
And
That's
also,
it.
I think it's the name of the company that takes care of the
Mhm.
railway system, the underground railway system. By the way, I think in English they sometimes also say the underground.
The underground,
Yeah,
that's
so
true.
the name of the thing is like the underground railway system, but nobody's gonna say that.
That's true.
So I think it's the name of the company that runs their system is the Tube, if I'm not
Mhm.
wrong.
Yes,
Yeah,
I think that's it. Mhm.
yeah. And here's Subway. It's called Subway, so that's why I think they use the name of the company. So
Mhm. And if you are to go in the tube, you'll probably come across with this next word, which in British English would say queue. So a queue in British English would be in American English,
a line.
a line. What are you doing waiting in the line? So we would
Yeah,
say
it's but
queue,
let's be
right?
very sincere. Q is a really complicated word to spell.
That's true.
Sometimes I have to think twice before I write this word, and it's also very difficult to pronounce because when you look
Mhm.
at it, you cannot identify any
That's true.
pronunciation
Mhm.
patterns. It's very tough for students. But you probably know where the word Q comes from.
I
French.
don't.
French comes from
Oh,
French. Q.
Q, Q.
Yeah, but we know there are a lot of words in English that come
Mhm.
from French. So we could
Yes,
have a video about that later. Because I
yes,
know
that,
you speak French too.
yes, yes. Okay, let's go see the next one. And this one, I think there's not a bit of controversy about this one, but it is different, right? So in British English, we say a car park. So a car park in English, in British English, is what Americans call
Parking lot.
parking lot.
Yeah,
That
lot is
is.
a piece of land.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
it's like a parking lot. But it's not very different.
Yeah, that's not very different. Just the word choice, I'd say, right?
Yeah.
And speaking about cars, the next word we've got here is the fuel that you fill up your car with. So in British English, we would say petrol. I need to put some petrol in my car. But in American English, what do you say?
Gas.
Gas. Gas. Not even gas, but gas, right?
Yes. Yes.
Gas, that would be the short for gasoline. That's it?
Exactly. Exactly. Gas,
Mm.
gasoline. Yeah, I mean, it's completely different. I think if you, I don't know, talk to somebody at a gas station here in the US and you ask for petrol, they will think you're crazy.
Probably. Probably. Okay, this next one can cause you a bit of a problem. A bit of a problem
It can be
if
really
you,
embarrassing.
yes, this is a euphemism to say that you're going to get embarrassed if you use that one wrongly or out of context. So in British English, let me see, I think I've got one here. In British English, we would call this thing here rubber, an object that we use to undo the mistakes we make when we're writing, right? But in American English, first, what would you call this?
An eraser.
Razor. But the reason or the controversy is that rubber in American English is another word is a slang word for condom. That's
Yeah,
the thing. So be careful if you are to use this word in America. Is it the same in Canada?
I don't know. I don't know. I
I
have never asked anyone. I have never seen anyone using this word. I'm sure here they use the word eraser, but I don't know if they call a condom rubber. But rubber can also be the material. If you say
yes,
rubber without using the article, I don't
mhm,
know. This is made of rubber.
that's true.
So we're
That's true.
talking about the material. But if you say I need to buy a rubber,
That could be.
then it can be embarrassing.
That's
I wouldn't use it here in Canada because I mean
mhm.
they probably use the same word, the same slang, but I'm not so sure. Cannot say that for sure, but I wouldn't take this risk.
I'm assuming a lot of British people would get into embarrassing situations because of that, right? I'm assuming that. That's the
That's
thing.
for sure.
Hmm.
There is something else that they say. I can't remember here. I don't know if you can. I Oh my God, I saw somebody talking about that the other day. That something that is like very normal here in the US would be something very offensive in England.
I know. I know. A fag, right? A fag in American English. Oh no, it's the opposite. A fag in American English would be a rude or offensive word for a gay person, right?
Yeah, it's very offensive.
But it's very offensive. But in British English, a fag would just be a cigarette, right? Could you buy me a
Yeah,
fag?
it's true. I
Yeah.
had forgotten about that.
Yes. So
Yeah,
that
I
is
had
another
super
word.
forgotten about that. No, it was
Like,
not the word I was looking for. It was not the word I was thinking about, but that's true. And I had forgotten about this one.
yeah.
Well, I never use this word anyway, so.
Yeah. Me neither, because I just smoke and also I would not say a rude word to anyone. So that's the
All
thing.
right, good one.
That's a good one. Let's go see the next one. And I think this one, Canadians use the British word, if I'm not mistaken. So we would
Wow.
say a lift in British English. What would you would say?
An elevator.
Do they call this
Yeah,
lift
here in
Canada?
Montreal, at least, they use the word elevator. The thing is, here in Montreal, the English they speak is very similar to American English. Like, yeah, even the accent. When you see people from Montreal speaking English, for example, they don't pronounce about a boot. They don't pronounce the word like that. They have like a very strong American accent here, and I think the vocabulary, the slang they use here is like I don't know why more similar to American English than to Canadian English. But I don't know if in other provinces such as Ontario or British Columbia, they would use lift.
Mhm.
But lift is a word that exists in American English, but we use it to refer to a cable car that carries people up and down a mountain. So yeah, like whenever you go to a ski station to snowboard or to ski, that's what you take to go up or down the mountain. So the word
It's a
lift
completely
exists.
different thing.
Yeah, and here in Quebec, at least,
Mhm.
they use like lift for the cable car at ski stations and elevator for the machine that takes us up and down a building. So yeah.
And it's interesting that you said that about the accent because that's true. Canadians tend to say a boot,
A
right? More close
boot.
down. And there are some accents in Britain that are just like that. There is an
Really?
British accent called Geordie, the Geordie
Yeah.
accent, and they speak almost like that. It's a very close pronunciation, like a person with a Geordie accent. And I was to say, do you want to see what my book is about? I would probably would say, do you want to see what my book is about? They close the
I like
pronunciation.
me
So,
books.
books. That's what they
Yeah,
say.
it's great fun
It's a
when I
book.
hear them say me books, me house.
That's true. Uh, Speaking about this word, still speaking about that, it's different. Not only the word for the thing, you would say uh, elevator when I would say a lift, But if I was to say the word you said, I would not say elevator. I would say elevator. Ele, not ele. That's
Elevator,
not
really?
the
That's
elevator.
interesting.
It's just another,
Elevator,
not ele.
elevator.
I would say elevator. Elevator.
Interesting. Didn't know that.
Yes. Like elevation. Would say
All right,
elevation or
interesting.
elevation.
No, elevation.
See?
I can
Would say
elevation, but
yeah,
not elevator. No,
I'd say elevation.
never
Yeah,
elevator.
that's interesting. Okay, the next one, and this one is quite interesting for people with young children. What we call in British English is a dummy. But in American English, you would say
A pacifier.
pacifier. Well, I can clearly see the reason
Yeah.
of the name, but it's definitely different, right?
No, completely different. But do you know if dummy comes from the word dumb in this context?
I have no idea. I have no idea.
Yeah, I
It,
don't know.
it's weird, but wouldn't it?
It sounds
Because
weird to me.
yes, yes. But how do they call this in Canada?
A pacifier too.
Pacifier.
Yeah, at least here in Quebec, that's the word I hear. But yes, whenever I hear people saying dummy, because here in the US and Canada, I mean, it has a different spelling. It's DUMMIE. Yeah, dummy
Mhm.
is like a very stupid person. It
Yes,
comes
yes.
from dumb. So
Mhm.
that's why whenever I hear them say, I know, give the baby the dummy, I'm like, what? What the
Why?
hell?
Oh, pity.
It sounds really weird to me. I have to confess.
Yes, it is. It is a bit weird. Okay, the next one. I like this one.
Me
Although
too.
the
Me too.
I
I
like this
like the
one.
British word. I think it's
I like this one.
great fun.
So if I was to do some personal things, I would excuse myself because I would need to go to the loo. But American people and Canadians as well would say,
Well, restroom,
mhm,
toilet also. So toilet, restroom. But here in Canada, washroom is much more common. Like
well,
people here, yeah. If you go to restaurants, that's what you're going to see, washroom. And
yes, that's
also here, they also call the half bathroom. In the United States, they call it a half bathroom. Here in Canada, they call it a powder room.
how the room. Yes, that's.
Powder.
I'm assuming, and this is just my mind, that that would be the room that it usually stays close to the door, right? So that would be
Exactly.
the room that you just go there, well, usually women to apply some powder on the face and check if everything is all right and go, right?
Probably. Yeah. So a half
Yeah.
bathroom, basically, if people don't understand, is like the bathroom without a place to wash, like without a shower or without a bathtub. So there is just the toilet tub and a sink to wash your hands. And I also think you have a different word for sink in British English.
We would say wash basin. That's what we would say in British English, wash basin. It would be different. But I think people would, of course, as the other words, understand if we would say a sink, right? It's just not
Yeah, so they
the
use both.
yes, yes,
All right.
that's it. But if you need to go to the washroom or the restroom, in British English, you needed to say that you're going to the loo. I need to
Yeah.
go to the
I'm going to the loo.
oh, I need to go to the loo.
I
And
really like this
also,
word loo. I don't
I
know
like that
why,
one.
but it sounds a little childish to me.
Yes,
But
I
it's a fun word. I
I
like
once
it.
saw the meaning, but I can't remember. I once saw the meaning of it. I just can't remember. And another different word speaking about that place, that environment, is what you call a toilet paper, we would call a bog roll.
Really? I had no idea.
Bog roll. They're
Oh
just
my
a bit like,
God.
yes.
How can words change that much? That
I
really
don't know,
impresses
yes.
me.
So
It's the
that's
same
how
language, but sometimes so different.
it's because it's so vivid, isn't it? The English language. It's beautiful. Okay, the next word is a good word. I like that one. You find it funny, I know, but I like
Yeah.
that one. In British English, we would say, "Oh, I'm just fancying a nice lolly." What you would say for a nice lolly?
A popsicle.
Popsicle.
Yeah, this
Pop.
one is not only fun, it's funny.
That
Where
is
does it
funny.
come from? Ice lolly.
I have no
Yeah, and
idea.
a lolly is a lollipop.
Yes, but um, it makes sense because a nice
It's like
lolly would be a
a,
frozen one. That's it. Yeah,
so
and
a
a
frozen
bit bigger.
lollipop, ice lolly.
Yes. Yes, that would
All
be
right,
it.
I
Just
see
a
no
bit
connection,
bigger.
but
Yes. But a popsicle. A popsicle uh sounds funny to me.
it's funny
Popsicle.
too. It's funny too. Both words are really funny. And
Yes.
and well, in some parts of the US, the word
Mhm.
pop is used to talk about soda. So for I
Yes.
used to live in Minnesota and there they say pop. I need
Mhm.
to have some pop or I need to buy pop at the supermarket. So whenever they say that, they're talking about soda. And I remember that after leaving Minnesota, I went to New York.
Mhm.
So I had a my one of my best friend's parents used to live in New York,
Mhm.
and I stayed at their place for a few months, and I had a great time, by the way. But well, and when I arrived there in New York, I used to say pop, and people used to look at me like,
Oh.
what? They could understand the word pop. They knew what I was talking about, but for them, it sounds very old-fashioned. So, like
Wow.
somebody saying pop, you sound like, as you would say in Portuguese, a caipira. So, yeah. So I was an alien. And then a friend of mine, a person that I met there, an Argentinian, actually, she told me, Soraya, I think pop sounds really weird here in New York.
Oh.
Yeah, you sound like a country girl, so stop saying that. The same thing for nightclub, because in Minnesota, they still say disco.
Mhm.
So I used to go to the disco with my friends in Minnesota. When I arrived in New York, I used to say disco as well. But then this one I learned very fast because people corrected me right away, like, not a
Uh-huh.
disco. You're not in the 60s. It's not a disco, it's a club or a
By the way,
nightclub.
for pop in British English, we would say a fizzy drink, right? A
Yeah,
fizzy
that's
drink.
true. It's also
Mhm.
different.
Yes,
I
it's also
also
the
like this one, fizzy drink, because
fizzy drink. Yes,
yeah, it
it
just
sounds a bit posh,
sparkles.
doesn't it? Oh, I'd like to have a fizzy drink, please.
Yeah, pop is definitely not a nice word to say. I think nowadays
And,
they probably don't use pop anymore in Minnesota, not even there, but
and pop, it's well, at least beginners, they need to be careful with that one because pop, it looks like a bed if you pronounce the word pot, right? So the ending pop, pot, if you
yeah,
pronounce it wrongly, if you
yeah,
ask for a pot, you could be in an embarrassing situation because pot in Canada, I know it's another word for marijuana, right?
yeah, pot. In the US too, they say
The
pot,
US.
they say weed. What
Mhm.
else? They have so many names for that.
They always.
Weed, pot, but I think pot is the most common one. Like, I don't know if you have ever watched Sex and the City. But they sometimes go to clubs and parties and they smoke pot. They talk about it. Does anybody have pot? So that's the most
Yes,
common word here for marijuana.
that's true.
There is another word they use here, but I can't remember. Another one that is really popular, but I know pot. It's not
British
just a plant
folklore.
pot or a cooking pot. You have to be careful. Don't go to the I don't know, to Canadian Tire and ask the salesperson for pot.
Yes, never, never. Don't do that. Okay, if you are to go to the Canadian Tire, you could also get another item on our list. And that item in British English, we say a torch. A torch. So a torch would be the British version of
Flashlight.
a flashlight. This one is so, I mean, It is different, but I can see the meaning of it, right? Because a torch in American English would be that old-fashioned one
The
that we see in the
Olympic
movies, right?
torch, for
Yes.
example,
Mhm.
exactly. So, I mean, it's a
The
similar
meaning is, yes,
concept.
just the words are different, right? A
We
torch.
can't deny.
And
Similar.
of course,
So, what is the British word for torch?
for that, for what Americans call a torch, in British English we would call a pyre. A pyre. And we say pyre because we don't pronounce the R, right? So a pyre, not a pyre, right?
Yeah, I
That's
would say a pyre. Pyre, yeah, torch.
torch, yes. Okay, the next one, I like this one too. I like this one too because it has other meanings. So in British English, I would say rubbish or something is rubbish. But in American English, what you would say,
Garbage or trash.
mhm, garbage. So just different words for the same thing, right? British people would say rubbish or rubbish bin, where you would say a trash bin, right?
Yeah, or a trash can also. I
Or
think
trash
trash,
can.
yeah, because we don't use bin very often here in North America. Yeah, so a trash can, a garbage can. But I have a friend from London, and he told me that in British English, saying garbage is a little rude. I don't know, it's not the best word to use. I think they don't like this word very
It
much.
could, yes,
Also,
it could be
awful.
to
Uh,
describe something that is bad, right? But to the thing that we are discarding, we would say rubbish. That's true. Do you
rubbish.
say
Yes,
litter? Litter.
they
Do you
say
say
later too. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, but he told me like because when I'm speaking naturally with my friends, I usually use some very strong words. I tend to exaggerate things, so I'm a very dramatic person. Yeah. So I usually say, "Oh, this is awful," or well, so he used
I
to
I I like to
uh
say the word rubbish for that. When something is bad or of very bad quality, I say, "Oh, this is
this
simply
is
rubbish.
rubbish.
Yeah, this is rubbish." Okay, so we come to the last word, last pair of words. So in British English, we would say that when you want to get to the other side of the road, you're going to cross the zebra crossing. A zebra crossing. What you would say?
Crosswalk.
Crosswalk. Well,
Completely different.
both of them make sense, right? A crosswalk and a zebra crossing. Of course
I don't
they
know.
do.
First of all, I would say a zebra crossing. So I would,
Oh,
yeah, because in US English we say zebra, not zebra.
that's true.
But I don't know, it sounds a little childish too. I think it's a funny word,
I like that.
zebra crossing.
Yes, that's true. And also, I think the reason we say zebra crossing is because the letter, how you would say the letter, the
Z.
first Z, I'd say Z, right?
Exactly.
Z.
That's why the pronunciation is different.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's true.
zebra, zebra.
Mhm.
But it's really weird when I hear people saying zebra.
Zebra.
Like sometimes I correct my students. I have some students who
Mhm.
have British pronunciation, but sometimes like I catch myself correcting. No, it's not. And then I stop. No, okay, forget it. Just forget it.
Yes,
Because
when I
zebra sounds wrong, simply wrong to me.
when I have students with that difficulty, I also say them, okay, you need to know there are some differences between them, right? Because you clearly have, I say to my students, you clearly have more of an American or Canadian accent, and I'm teaching you English with my British accent, so you need to know that there is a difference, right?
Yeah, I always try to show the differences, especially if it's something really common like rubbish
Mhm.
and garbage. And also because I teach IELTS, so they will come across these words in the test, like in the essays, whatever. So I try to teach the differences, but uh, zebra is still very difficult. To my ears, it sounds wrong, but
I simply
uh,
like it.
yeah, you like it. And there is something really important that people need to pay attention to is that in a proficiency test, they can use either British or American English,
That's
but
true.
it's never a good idea to mix both.
That's
Guys,
true.
you're going to be penalized if you say zebra and then you say garbage.
That's it. That's it. It's simply not good for you to keep mixing them, right? Because you need to have consistency. You
Exactly.
can have either the British or the American accent, but you need to be consistent.
Yeah, it
That's the
doesn't
thing.
matter the kind of English you use, the kind of accent you have, but you have to be consistent. And there is a problem because here in Canada, they mix some elements of the British English and the
That's
American English, so it's really difficult. Sometimes students get really lost. People who are studying at college here, they feel confused because even in spelling, so
yes.
the Canadian spelling follows some British rules and some American
Yes.
rules. For example, here words like color
Uh-huh.
take OU, so it takes they take the U too.
In the British.
But I think they use the American spelling rule for words like analyze,
Mhm.
characterize. It's really confusing for my Canadian students because they sometimes think they're making mistakes
Yes.
and they end up making mistakes because Canadian English is crazy.
Yes, and I'd say the biggest problem, a major problem here would be exactly the writing test, right? Because of that, right? Because
I think the spelling
sometimes the
biggest challenge.
spelling is different, but the pronunciation is the same, like behavior or color. The
Analyze,
pronunciation is the
same
same, analyze,
pronunciation.
but the spelling is different, right? That's the thing.
Or, for example, willful. In British English,
Mhm.
it takes only one L, and in American English, it takes
Yes.
two L's.
Mhm.
So it's
Yes.
confusing.
Yes.
So people pay attention. So if you're taking IELTS or TOEFL and you live here in Canada, make sure you are using the right rules. Make a list
Yes.
of the rules they use here in Canadian English, or I think it's always easier not to use Canadian English and choose the American or the British version because the Canadian English is confusing because, again,
Yes.
it mixes rules from both variants of English.
That's true. That's true. So that's it. I think we have come to an end. And I'd like to thank you once more for having this chat with me. It was a great pleasure to talk to you another time. And would you like to say something to the people watching us?
Well, thank you for inviting me. I really like sharing my knowledge with other people, and I always have a great time whenever we talk. So I hope we can do it again pretty soon.
Yes, for sure. And for those of you watching the video and also listening to the podcast, I will leave her profile here below in the description of the video and also in the description of the podcast episode. Right? You should definitely go see her. And
Thank you.
okay, I think that it's time for us now, and I see you in the next videos. Cheers.
Bye bye.